Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to be doing some more seeding for my summer annuals and for my summer vegetable garden. This is, I think, the third video, and the reason it's the third video is because some of my seeding happens way out in advance, and some of it a little closer to my frost-free date. The things that I'm actually seeding today only take about 4 or 5 weeks from seeding them to going in the garden. So I just back up from my frost-free date about 5 weeks or so, and so I'm putting those things in now, and I'll go over those in a minute. I've got my cool season vegetables that were seeded, I guess about 3.5 weeks or so ago now. If you go back and watch that video, this is lettuce and bok choy and kale and some other cool season vegetables. I'm holding off putting these in the ground because we have a 22-degree night for Saturday night. As soon as that passes by, these cool season vegetables will go in the ground. I could have them in the ground now and then cover them lightly for that 22, and that would be fine. It just seems kind of pointless. Is on the day that they were ready to go in that I would do that. So I'm going to wait until that passes. So Sunday or Monday, these will be in the ground. Next time you see anything to do with with these seeding videos, you'll see that. And I have since that first video, the second video that went up had peppers and those hibiscus that I use every year and several other things. And those things are starting to come up. Once they're up on that light rack inside, I will fertilize them with some fish emulsion when I water them. Try to get them jumping. You know, that's what I've done here. These have been fertilized a couple times with the fish emulsion when they've needed water. Just a small amount of fish emulsion mixed in the water. Doesn't smell that great, but that's okay. But those things can now come off and go outside on warm days and get adjusted to the sunlight. And the sun is always better than the indoor lights, period. So once they're up like this, I mean, I want them outdoors as many days as I can possibly have them outdoors. So I think that's it on that. These will go in the ground. You've already seen the garden prep. I did a garden prep video as well where I composted the vegetable garden, so it's ready to go. Let's see. So what's going in right now? I put my potatoes out earlier this week, and I have 15-gallon grow bags, and I put about 3 inches of compost on the bottom of them. These are planted in just pure compost. I can reuse that compost in the vegetable garden later this year, so it will get recycled. I put about 3 inches of compost down on the bottom of the bag. You had seen me cut up the potatoes in one of these videos, I think the last one. So those healed over a bit overnight, and then they went into the bags, and then they were covered with a couple inches of compost. Some people will go ahead and fill the bag. I actually like to let that new growth come up a bit, and then add about 2 inches of compost each time I see the growth from them vining up the bag. I fill them as I go. It also keeps the bags lighter just in case I need to winter protect them. And guess what? I need to winter protect them. They are over here on the, sitting outside. Right now there's only about 5 inches of compost in them, so they're easy for me to pick up. I'm just going to put them in the shed overnight on that coldest night. But about 3 to 4 weeks before your last frost date is the time to be doing your potatoes. Is probably the best time. It will require the least amount of protection. This will probably be the only night that I need to protect them. So there you go, there's potatoes. The next thing I need to do is, last year I did a Dahlia jumpstart video you can go back and take a look at. My Dahlias that I bought as tubers. I will put these in containers. You'll see that when I do this. I'll get them started early. There's a few other of my summer bulbs and tubers that I will get started as well. And I just plant them into 1-gallon containers and get them growing. And by having them in the 1-gallon containers, if it does get cold, I can bring them in. I can leave them out on the warmer days. And then by the time my frost-free date or my average last frost date there in mid-April, I can plant them in the ground and already have a little bit of growth on them. So that video will be coming up, but it's something I plan on doing this next week if you've bought any tubers like that. The seeds that are going in this week, and I won't show you, planting seeds, but I use these 50-cell trays. Some people like to just do a tray that's just, all the seed out and then and to divide them, just in a big open tray, like that. That's fine. Some people like to do them in jars and plastic containers outside early. whatever your choice is, this is how I like to do it. I get a consistent outcome by using these individual cells and my grow lights inside. It's just my technique. So the things that are going in today that require 4 to 6 weeks of time between putting the seed into the tray and germinating and then being sturdy enough to be transplanted into the ground. Okay, that's today's list. I'm doing zinnias, and I'm doing more zinnias this year than I have in the past. I've always done my giant zinnias, but my other lower growing zinnias, like my perfusion zinnias, I've usually just bought them as plants, but I'm doing them from seed this year, just trying to save some money on that. So my zinnia stack is quite big, but a lot of them are the lower growing ones that will go in containers and things like that. But those perfusion zinnias are great if you can still get your hands on any of them. And then I've got some Bennery giants that I always do. The zinnias that get 3.5 feet tall and have the big giant flowers on them. All of these are great for pollinators. And zinnias can be done direct sowed into the ground as well. Again, I just find some more consistency by starting them early. And if you're starting them early, about 4 weeks before your frost-free date is the time to do it. Cosmos as well, and a cosmos is another thing that can be done direct seeded in the ground if you want to, if you don't have room to be pre-starting your seed. Again, more consistency by doing it early. I've got a couple asters, which of course zinnias are asters too. There's a lot of things that are asters, but this is I have several really showy kind of interesting asters that you'll see during the season. This mix is called Starlight. It's from Baker Creek. Some of my seeds are from Baker Creek, some of them are from Johnny Seed, some of them are from Park Seed, and some of them from Home Depot and Lowe's and my local garden center up the street. I don't really, wherever I can find them is typically how I go about buying seeds. That question always comes up. I've got nasturtiums. Nasturtiums are great from seed, and honestly, pretty easy from seed. And what the nasturtiums will typically do is I'll get a few blooms early, and then my summers are a little hot down here in 7B, and I don't get a whole lot. But then if you hold off on them, leave them in place, come about September, October, they really put on a show through the fall for me down here in the south. Tomatoes are going in. Peppers went in last week. Peppers take about 2 weeks longer than tomatoes to be a transplantable size, and I have lots of varieties of tomatoes, and I always get questions on what my favorite tomato varieties are. Bronze Torch, definitely very high up on the list. I buy mine before I tell people about it every year because I really want to make sure I get my Bronze Torches. They're great. It's about a 2-inch long tomato that just tastes great. It has a great texture and holds up well. They will crack some if we get some heavy rains, but they resist cracking more than some others. I'll put them in the middle on that. I do like cream sausage as well, and several other varieties of tomatoes. I do giant marigolds. Most of the things that I do in this landscape are for pollinators, and so I've got lots of salvias, got lots of perennials of all kinds, black-eyed Susans. I can just go on and literally on and on and on. Most of these zinnias, the cosmos, the dahlias that I do from seed, and I'll show you some dahlia seed in a minute that I collected last year, are all done for pollinators. I do my giant marigolds though, kind of for me. They have the big, beautiful doubles. The bees don't have an easy time getting into them, but again, I don't think there's a landscape that has more to offer the bees than mine, but I do, again, the big giant double marigolds aren't great for the pollinators, but they're beautiful in the landscape. And you can plant them behind other things, and they'll stick up above and then end up leaning over on things with big giant flowers. What else is going on over here? Let's see. Oh, I've got celosia. Celosia is pretty easy to do from seed. Seed is teeny tiny, but it's actually pretty easy to do from seed. And then some Mexican sunflower or Tithonia. Highly recommend Mexican sunflowers. They typically, they really put on a show. This is one that's kind of slow to bloom initially. The foliage looks great though, and then late summer into fall, just put on a giant show. That's Tithonia. And I think that's it for this round. I have some dock and basil that are going in as well. Basil can definitely be direct seeded in containers if you want to do that. Probably one of the easiest things in the world to germinate. You can put 3 seeds in a pot and then thin them down to 1 or 2, whatever you want later. But again, I'm doing them in a tray for consistency. So I think that's, oh, and then I've got some okra seed that I collected in the fall. I believe I showed this in the during the fall that, you know, I let okra dry on the plants out there and then I collect it. These seeds are from Buddy Lee, and it's a very, very old variety of okra. And then I collected my dahlia seeds. I collect a lot of seeds, but I had specifically been asked about collecting dahlia seeds. And yes, on all of my seedling varieties, I can go back and collect the seed. One of the beauties of collecting the seed if you have a lot of different dahlias, seedling dahlias, is that they cross with one another. So I have no idea. Each of these seeds will literally be unique and different in some way. So some of those will be going in as well. Has a little papery piece on it that the seed is attached to. So I just pop that little black seed off of that little papery part and they germinate. They germinate readily. I don't know that you can be seen down there, Holly. Maybe you can. Okay, what am I missing? So after these cool season vegetables go in the ground this next week, the things that I direct seed for cool season vegetables will go in, which for me is just going to be beets. But if you were doing carrots, it's actually time to do carrots direct seeded into the garden. I don't like to start those in the trays because it is it's a taproot. That's what a carrot is, and they don't do well going in a shallow tray unless you get them transplanted almost immediately. But that, you know, your carrot will end up bent down in the bottom of the tray. So do those direct seeded in the ground if you're going to do carrots. And then once I'm past my frost free date, a lot of these things I actually just direct seed in the ground. So that's going to be cucumbers, squash, zucchini, and any beans. And the okra could go actually directly in the ground as well. I do start them in the trays, but okra is super, super easy just to direct seed in the ground. And if you haven't grown okra, especially here in the South, and you're new to vegetable gardening or new to food gardening, okra is the toughest thing you can possibly grow it if you like it. And and I like it roasted in the oven. It's great that way. There are some ways to cook okra that are not desirable, but in the oven, roasted, fantastic. So I think that's it for this week's vegetable update. When you see another one, all these cool season vegetables will be in the ground. Beets will be planted. We should see all of these things that are being seeded today coming up. Dahlias jump started, potatoes protected for one night and then back out there probably with a little more compost on them at that point as they start to grow. So that's it. Thanks for following along, guys. Trust me, if you jump in, it's very rewarding to grow some of your own food, and once you do, you'll find that it's much easier than you think. Thanks for watching.